Kelly Shaw, Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization. I'm at the location of one of my favorite Bigfoot sighting reports. The reason is in 2012, when we came into the area, we found Bigfoot activity, some of the best footprints that we've ever found. I will show you some of those footprints in this video. About 600 yards from this sighting location, we found the footprints, and we also found a structure complex. The first time here, we actually found the footprints. As we were casting them, an animal harassed us for about 2 hours. May or may not have been the Bigfoot that left the footprints behind. 17 inches long, about 7.5 to 8 inches wide at the widest parts. It was just amazing. Kind of a terrifying experience after the sun went down, after 2 hours of it stomping back and forth. Obviously, a threat display to try and scare us away. After the sun went down, we left. The structure complex that we found on another visit, I don't know, maybe our third or fourth one hiking around, we found the structure complex. It wasn't very far from the footprints. The footprints and the structure's about 600 yards from the actual Bigfoot sighting. I'm at the Bigfoot sighting right now. I'll leave photos of the structure at the end of this video. Here's the Bigfoot sighting report that brought us into the area. This was reported by Mike. His last name is withheld for privacy reasons. He's a friend that lives in the same area as I do. We went to the sighting this past Saturday, and Mike showed and told us, a group of 20 people, what occurred on the night of the sighting. Mike went back to the sighting a week before to make sure he could find it, since it had been about 25 years since he was in this canyon. He and his younger brother Lynn had gone fishing. They had been in the area many times before with their father and other family members. They arrived at their intended camp about 7:30 p.m. They both had noticed once they entered the canyon that they saw no wildlife, no deer, no birds, or anything. Mike remembers having an eerie feeling from the very moment they started down into the canyon. He recalled hearing no noises, and commented to Lynn about this and the weird feeling he had of something or someone watching them. They had forgotten worms, so both went into the willows and were digging for worms, all the while feeling something was watching them. Mike said the hair on the back of his neck was standing on end. Whenever he would look around, he couldn't see anything watching them. They returned to the truck, lit a lantern, and put it on top of the truck and proceeded to light a fire to roast a hot dog on. His brother and he were sitting on a log, and he noticed his brother had opened a beer and was not drinking it. He was just standing there staring at something, and he ceased to talk to him. He looked in the direction his brother was and saw a Sasquatch trying to sneak up to them from off the road. It went to a clump of willows and to another, and then proceeded to peer at them by holding the willows off to one side and leaning over to get a better point of view. Mike was so shocked he lost his balance and fell from the log, and in getting back up, noticed the Sasquatch creeping behind the willows and moving to the west and south. Mike and his brother then lost visual sight of it, and could hear very loud thrashing noises of the Sasquatch going through the creek and willows and up the canyon to the west and south of the campsite. Mike said he did not smell anything, and figured it was because of the smoke from the fire. Mike estimated the whole sighting and noises lasted 2 minutes. His younger brother wanted to stay there and sleep in the camper shell, but Mike was well impressed by the creature and very strongly wanted to get out of there. The BFRO investigator also wants to stay anonymous. He did not leave his name with the report. Here's his follow-up investigation report. I spoke with the report submitter, who is a friend of the witness and describes him as a fellow you can trust, a church member, and a family man. He struck me as a rational man who has been intrigued with Bigfoot phenomenon for many years and is himself, as it turns out, something of a resource for Sasquatch information. Without reservation, he agreed to put me in contact with the witness. Mike the witness impressed me as an able observer genuinely affected by his experience. He provided additional information and clarified some details. Mike graduated high school in 1976, about a year prior to the sighting, so he estimates that 1977 is the correct year of the sighting. This canyon, like many other canyons in the area, is steep, rocky, craggy, and frequently impassable, particularly after the rain. It was during the big drought of the 1970s, during the fall bow hunting season. The stream there is 30 feet wide, meandering through the willows. He and his family had camped there many times before, but following this encounter, he did not return for 24 years. He and his brother Lynn arrived at camp around 4 or 5 p.m. From the moment they entered the canyon, there was a pervasive feeling of being watched, even while still in the truck. Mike noted the unusual dead silence. Even the normal buzzing of the insects was conspicuously absent the entire time they were there. They dug worms in the willows while the sun was beginning to set. It was breezy that evening. Around 8 or 9 p.m., Mike and Lynn were sitting on a log by the fire facing the road, with the smoke from the fire in their faces. There were willows between themselves and the road. He recalls that there was not much moonlight, but that the lantern light and firelight lit the wide area. His brother had just opened his first beer and hadn't even taken the first drink when he dropped it and was staring toward the road. Mike later learned that for several minutes Lynn had been aware of a large animal moving just outside the edge of the light and had assumed it had been a grazing cattle or deer until he actually saw it step down off the road and approach them stealthily through the willows. It was at this time that Mike looked to see a face looking at them. It was a dark, blank, dark face, a hairy face, at a distance of 30 to 40 feet. It had a nose. Its eyes were dark and somewhat shiny, but not incandescent, and no whites were visible. It was tall, and the hair color was dark brown or black. After only a few seconds of eye contact, the animal exited right through the willows. It plowed him down. It ran down through the creek and up the hill behind, but didn't go far. With the animal somewhere just out of sight on the hillside, Mike and Lynn both felt like they needed to leave. They did so hastily. Mike reported his incident to the ranger station in Price. He doesn't know if this was a Forest Service or other agency office. Through my investigation, it determined that this was the Utah Wildlife Resources Southeastern Regional Office. The ranger there explained to him that due to the drought, many area streams were dry, but the creek in this canyon was running, and that many animals were coming into the area only for the water. The ranger said, too, that many bow hunters had reported seeing something interesting. Mike explained that the local stories around this area, him and his uncle knew many people from Price that wouldn't go to the canyon or the next canyon over. Sasquatch Canyon is what they called it. We've kept up the tradition of calling this area Sasquatch Canyon because of what we have found in the area. It took us 3 attempts to get into the area to the sighting location. Just like the witness says, most of the year this area is impassable and you do not want to be caught back here in the rain. The second attempt coming in, I broke my front drive shaft on my Jeep. And after I got that repaired, I come back a month later and we found the sighting location. We were pretty excited to find it. And then about 600 yards from the sighting location, we found some beaver ponds. And we decided to go down to the beaver ponds and take a look around because there seems to be a lot of Bigfoot sighting reports in and around beaver structures and beaver ponds. I don't know what it is, but we went down only 600 yards from here, and we found footprints. And like I said at the beginning of the video, we felt like we were being harassed by what left the footprints behind. So later on, after we casted those and we come back for more expeditions, we have found other footprints. We found the structure complex, and So now we keep a close eye on this area. We keep 6 game cameras in the area because of the Bigfoot activity we have found and all the sighting reports that come out of the area. But that was the sighting report that we were checking up on when we first found Bigfoot activity in the area. Just an amazing area. I mean, I have been to hundreds of Bigfoot sighting locations, and 99.9% of the time, you don't find, see, or hear anything. So it's just amazing when you come into an area. And it was our 3rd attempt. And when we actually got to the area, we found Bigfoot activity. I know the sighting reports from 1977. That's the reason why we don't care if a sighting report's last week, last month, or 100 years ago. I mean, this was over 40 years ago. We found Bigfoot activity. There was a reason 40 years ago that the Bigfoot were using the area. There's a reason now. So, no matter how old the report is, we like to see the area. And this is an example of why this area has been a smorgasbord of Bigfoot activity for us. The last Bigfoot sighting was just a year ago by a bow hunter. It was a road crossing Bigfoot, crossed him right in front of the road. The local rancher heard about his Bigfoot sighting and gave us a call. We were there the next day. We're going to continue to keep an eye on this area. I hope you enjoyed this Bigfoot sighting report that motivated us to actually find this area. Keep on watching. We're going to keep on squatching.